Okay, we have kind of a special treat today. We're going to look at a card effect performed by one of the great mathematical card magicians of our lifetime. His name is Ron Graham, and he's one of the authors of the book Magical Mathematics, along with Percy Diaconis. Now, he's going to give us a demonstration of the Gilbreth principle, but this effect is far from trivial, I promise you. So let's first watch a short video clip of his original performance, and then we'll go into how you could perform this yourself, since he does not explain that within this video presentation that he gives. So I'll turn the time over to Ron.
You say you'd like a lesson in cheating at cards. Well, you might actually be better at it than you realize. So what we can do is let's get a deck of cards here. I just happen to have a deck of cards. And in poker, the hand has 5 cards, and some hands are better than others. For example, if this hand had, say, 2 3s and 2 6s, that's 2 pairs. That's excellent. Or maybe if your hand had 3 9s, that's 3 of a kind. That's really quite a good hand. So let's imagine that you're playing poker, say, dealing with 5 players, and you need 25 cards. And so here's about 25 cards. And why don't you pick those up and deal some number one at a time, face down, just to kind of mix them up a little bit there. Some 8, 10 cards, whatever you like. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now square them up and give them a little shuffle. Okay, so we can kind of see. Okay, that's a pretty good shuffle. Okay, and now let's pick them up and deal our 5 poker hands. Okay, good. Okay, everybody had 5 players. Each one gets the first card. And now each one gets the second card. Very good. The third card. Okay, good. 4th card coming up. And finally the 5th card. Now, if you were kind of cheating, you might want a particular person to have a very good hand. For example, let's see what the hand we have. The player right here. What does he have? He has a ace, queen, 8. Well, I'm afraid that's not a very good hand. But this is the warm-up. So let's pick up the packs in some order, any order you like. Make one big pack out of everything, and some order, kind of a crazy order. Okay. And now let's deal 5 more poker hands. Okay. Okay. This is the real thing. Okay. So that was the warm-up first. Now this is the real thing. And here we go. Everybody gets a card. There's card number 3, card number 4 coming up, and finally everybody gets 5th card. Okay, now if you were really good at cheating, you might like this person, for example, to have a very good hand. So why don't we turn over the cards one at a time and see what he's got? A 5, pretty good. Another 5, very good. 3 5s, wow. 4 5, 4 of a kind, fantastic, very good. You really are a lot better than you thought. But actually, if you're going to make money cheating cards, you might like this person to have a very good hand, 4 of a kind. He's going to bet a lot, and maybe your confederate in this position has a better hand. So let's turn over his cards. He has a king of spades, a 10 of spades, a jack of spades, a queen of spades, an ace of spades, a royal flush, the very best possible hand. That is fantastic. Congratulations. You are really good at cheating. You may wonder how that previous trick was done. Well, it depends on a principle in magic called the Gilbreth principle.
Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at what Ron Graham just did there. As he mentioned, it involves the Gilbreth principle. Let me go ahead and just recap his whole performance, and then we'll look at a possible packet structure that would allow you to perform the very same effect. Okay, so within this routine, we had a first dealing of the 25 cards into 5 piles of 5 cards each. Now, what we want to be the case is we want the spectator's pile 5 we'll call it. We'll number these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the same fashion that he used the piles. So we want that first hand, after dealing out these cards, to be a bad hand. Okay, so either nothing at all of interest, or maybe if you're lucky, a pair or something. Okay, So a bad hand at first, and then he had the spectator randomly stack the 5 piles, and that is true, and we'll see that in just a moment, and then deal out the cards a second time. Now this time, he wants the spectator to receive a very good hand, but not the highest possible hand, but a very good hand. Why is that? So that that player will be overly confident and potentially bet a lot of money on the particular hand that they have. Okay? And as we'll see, the kind of hand that the spectator will have on this second dealing will either be 4 of a kind or a full house. And both of those are excellent poker hands. Okay? But at the same time, we want the performer, or who he called the confederate, whose cards are in pile 1, to be an unbeatable hand, namely a royal flush. And his was a royal flush in spades. Okay. So let's go ahead and we'll just kind of step through this again, and then I'll show you the packet structure that he could have used. Okay, so he brought out 25 cards. He didn't pre-mix them to allay anyone's suspicions. A person could, though, do quite a bit of false mixing if you wanted. And so he had the spectator just go into dealing out a certain number of cards, any number actually. Now, he did recommend 8 to 10, that range. Now, we'll go ahead and just deal out the same number that the spectator did, and then I'll show you in the tutorial that you can deal out different numbers than that. But I believe that she dealt out 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Now she did a riffle shuffle, which is actually fairly hard to do when you have such small piles to work with. And you could see that she wasn't all that happy with the riffle shuffle that she did. Now the amazing thing is, when it comes to the Gilbreth principle, the quality of the riffle shuffle plays no part in the success of the routine. That's the amazing thing. Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll do something I've done a lot on my channel. We'll do the equivalent shuffling to a riffle shuffle, namely a rosette shuffle. You just spin the cards and then you just bring them together. Okay, so that's a good way to mix them when the packets are on the smaller side. Okay, now if you remember, there was a first dealing out. Okay, and so we have pile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the spectator's pile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and we're hoping that the spectator for this first dealing gets a really very poor hand. Okay, and so he had her look at her hand and see, what kind of luck she had. Okay, that's not too great. As you can see, there's nothing there, actually, nothing. And I believe that kind of thing happened in his presentation as well. Okay, so very bad hand, and he kind of made a joke of it. And then he gave her the freedom, and this is true, she can pick up these piles in any order, which is absolutely amazing if you think about it, okay? So there's really no order to which these have to be picked up for all of this to work. So any order will do. And then he just had her deal them out into 5 piles a second time, okay? So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what we're hoping for here is we're really hoping that the spectator gets a very good hand, and the kind I mentioned was a 4 of a kind or a full house, so that they'll be tempted to bet a lot on that hand. And then the performer, if he's done his job, he's going to have an unbeatable hand. Okay, so once again, the spectator's hand is over here, and so he had her reveal those kind of one card at a time. So there's a 3, a 5, a 5, a 3, a 5. Look at that, a full house. a full house. Now, depending on exactly how we shuffled, we could have come up with four of a kind, which is a good hand as well. Or, as I mentioned, we would reveal a full house, which we have here. Okay, so that's going to imbue the spectator here, the player here, to be confident in the quality of their hand. And then the confederate over here, or the performer, he has a slightly better hand than that. Okay, 10 of spades, king of spades, queen of spades, ace of spades, and a jack of spades. A royal flush in spades. Absolutely amazing, actually. Okay, so the difficulty of this routine, let me just point out some things because it wasn't trivial to deconstruct this, okay? And I haven't seen anyone actually put out there a solution to this. I don't think anyone has. So it took me a few minutes to figure out, okay, now how could you pull off what he pulled off? Okay, it's those three elements that we're needing, okay? And to get all three of these is really pretty hard. Take my word for it, because I kind of discovered that as I tried to build something that would work. Because I'd have like one or two of the three being the case, but not the other one, that kind of thing. Okay, but eventually I got it figured out, so that's what I'm going to share with you today. Okay, so let me just move this little write-up here. So here is a workable packet structure. Now, it's almost certainly not exactly the one that he used, but it's probably very, very similar, actually. Okay, so what we need here to pull this off, I do want to point out that if Ron Graham set up the effect so that a royal flush in spades is guaranteed, then he would have to, or anyone else would have to use at least some duplicates. Okay. Now we never saw the duplicates. That's the clever part. They never came out in any of the hands that we displayed, and that's part of the challenge, is to design this packet in such a way that you hide that. You never give away any secrets, right, with the cards that you reveal. Okay. But it is the case that if you want to be 100% certain that the performer or the confederate gets a royal flush in one of the suits, you have to use duplicates. So what he had to have done here is he must have had an ace, 10, jack, queen, and king of spades on top, those same cards on the bottom. Okay? And the reason that's going to work for us is because the Gilbreth shuffle involves two steps. You reverse count a certain number of cards to the table, and then you, quote, riffle shuffle the two packets together. Well, this is the top of the packet, and this is the bottom. To reverse count means that we're moving the ace like down here into a second pile. So it'll be like ace, 10, jack, queen, king, kind of like going up that way. Okay. Well, when you reverse count a cyclic packet and then riffle it with the remaining cards, the Gilbreth principle guarantees a most remarkable outcome. So in the case of reverse counting the top five and having those mix in with the bottom five in some way, guarantees that after that interlacing, in however they randomly interlace, after that interlacing, that bottom group of five cards is guaranteed to have an ace of spades, a 10 of spades, jack, queen, and king of spades in some order. We won't know the order. The Gilbreth principle does not guarantee the order of the cards within the groups promised by the Gilbreth principle. Okay? So what that means then is dealing out a certain number of cards, 5 or more in this case. That's a minimum for what I'm talking about at the moment. When those mix, and we'll assume that they kind of mix in with these here in some way, And the fact is, even if they kind of bleed over here as well, the fact is the bottom 5 cards will consist of a royal flush and spades, with the cards in some unknown order. Okay. Now, when it comes to a poker hand, it doesn't matter what order the cards are in, just what's in the hand. Okay. So that's where the Gilbreth principle is used and needed to guarantee the royal flush would be dealt to the performer at the very end. Okay, so that's kind of really where the Gilbreth principle is most visibly being invoked and needed for that outcome. Okay, now the rest of the packet structure, I have a dividing bar. This is at groups of 5 cards. Okay, the rest of the packet structure needs to be such that the middle portion of those cards, if they were to kind of mix among themselves in the way of a riffle shuffle, after which some of these have been reversed, you're going to have some kind of pattern similar to this. So here I had just a filler card after the royal flush, like 2 of diamonds, and I had the 4 3s, the 4 5s, 4 8s, and then I had a couple of filler cards, just 4 of clubs, king of hearts, and then another royal flush in spades. Okay, I'm going to just quickly rebuild this for us. Okay, I built the pack according to the values listed above there. Now I did alternate colors, but you don't need to. That's actually not important here. So what I thought we would do is go ahead and just do all of this face up so you can kind of see what's happening. But to do everything face up, we'll go ahead and just reverse the order of all of the cards. Okay. So the first step is to just deal out some number of cards for the Gilbreth shuffle itself. So maybe we'll, just ask the spectator to shoot for about half. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11. 11's fine. So why don't we do 11? Now you can riffle shuffle these or perform a rosette shuffle. This is where you spin them and you just bring them together. Rosette shuffle is mathematically equivalent to a riffle shuffle, so that will be just fine. And so what we did in the original performance, of course, is we just dealt out the cards into 5 piles, like that. And I do want to point out this first layer, which we normally wouldn't see because the cards would be face down. This is actually the hand that the spectator is going to get the second time. Okay, just you'll see that in just a moment. Okay, and as we can see, it is a full house. It's a good hand. Okay, and so we would continue dealing. Okay, like that. And then, if you remember, what we did was, this is the first dealing, right? First dealing. We want the spectator to have kind of a poor hand. So this would be their hand they would look at. They would have looked at it and go, okay, not all that great, right? Okay, and then the cards truly can be picked up as far as the piles in any order, which, as I mentioned, is really quite remarkable. Okay, and now you just do a second dealing. That's all you do. You just deal them out again. And as you'll see, the spectator will get that full house that I pointed out to you just a moment ago, which is good. We want them to have a good hand so that they'll maybe bet a lot, right? There it is. So there's the full house. And then, of course, the confederate over here, or the performer, has an unbeatable hand. Royal flush in spades. So there you go. Okay, so this is actually quite a subtle little effect, for sure. Now, it is true that if Ron Graham wanted to guarantee a four of a kind. Do you remember? That's what happened in his. So a bad hand at first for the spectator, and then the spectator's good hand was actually 4 of a kind. So it was 4 5s. Now, if you want that to be a guaranteed outcome for the spectator, then you're going to have to introduce additional duplicates. There's just no other way of doing it, okay? And I honestly don't know, maybe he did that. So maybe he was really set on having 4 of a kind here, which would be great, and then of course a royal flush and spades, okay? But it would be more duplicates that you would have to introduce, which I tried to minimize those. Since we are set on a royal flush here, we have to use duplicates for that. But since the way I've designed it here, you'll get 4 of a kind or a full house, which is still a very good hand. I figured that would meet the requirement of being, quote, a good hand. But no one knows, as far as I know, how actually Ron Graham built the packet of 25 cards that he used. To my knowledge, no one saw what it was. You can peek at some of the cards during the presentation, but so he may have, it's possible that he used duplicates to force this 4 of a kind, okay, which is fine. I just thought I would go with the least engineered approach and not bring in more duplicates than you absolutely have to. So anyway, so thank you for watching, and so this is kind of made for my LinkedIn group members who are in my Math Card Magic LinkedIn group, because somebody posted a video, Ron's video, and then a message was sent off to me. Would it be possible for me to create a video explaining potentially how he did his effect and where the Gilbreth principle comes in, okay? And of course, one place that it comes in for sure is the royal flush and spades. It's the reversing of these cards and then having them mix in with the bottom cards. You're guaranteed that the bottom 5 cards will consist of, in some order, an ace, 10, jack, queen, and king of spades. That's guaranteed by the Gilbreth principle, okay? And then in a less transparent way, the Gilbreth principle can be used to explain why it is you're going to get 4 of a kind here or a full house for the spectator's second hand, okay? But as you can see here, there's no cyclic arrangement here anymore. It's blocks of 4 cards that we're wanting to mix among themselves in such a way that you either get 4 of a kind or you get a full house, which both are wonderful hands, okay? So anyway, so thank you for watching, and take a look at other videos on the Absolute Math Magic channel.